Right, this is going to be a quick video, the sort of video I never really intended on making, to be honest, because there are thousands and thousands of other channels doing kit reviews and unboxings, and it's not the sort of thing I really want to get into. But having said that, I've been very lucky to get these very early ahead of their release here in the UK and across the States. So I thought I'd do a quick video just showing these kits for anyone who might be interested. I think they're due for release early part of next year, could be as early as January, so in a few weeks' time. And I've had these for a couple of weeks, but I've not got round to getting them in front of a camera until now. Like I said, this isn't the sort of video I want to try and get into, this sort of format, so I'll keep it brief because honestly, I don't really know how to review a kit or anything like that. This is just going to be like a look in the box, and my impressions of the detail and the size and all the rest of it. So let's start with the Ornithopters because why not? Might as well start there. Right, so we'll start with this Atreides Ornithopter then, and it's kit number MMS-011. So, interesting observation that's probably been made plenty of times, but I'll mention it here anyway. This is kit 11 in the range, and then the Harvester is 13, and the Harkonnen Ornithopter is 14. So, in the range, we've already skipped 12 on this initial release, so it makes me think that there are more kits planned, if not already on their ways, but there's been no announcements about what they might be. So that's kind of encouraging that at least Meng seem to have a little bit of a plan on kit releases. So yeah, time will tell on that one. But anyway, very first impressions is it's a small box. It's the same size between the Harkonnen Ornithopter and the Atreides one. And there are other commonalities, and I'll get to those in a minute. So yeah, very small box, but that's fine. I'm fine with that. These kits are obviously quite small. Full disclosure, I have had a quick look at these parts. This isn't a sort of a first reactions video or anything like that. So let's just get these out. Just put the box away for a second. The bag is open, obviously. Let's just get what's in the box out. So there's a little decal sheet. I'll cover that in a sec. There's a stand and sprue A. Declutter the space a bit. So this is sprue A, and this is like the main sort of forward part of the fuselage, the cockpit and the tail. Basically it's the body. It's like the rear thruster piece, or like I don't know if it's a stabilizer vent or something that goes on the tip of the tail there. Sprue B, this is the landing gear, and articulated joints for the blades. The landing gear comes in two sort of variants. You've got landed where they're sort of deployed, and in flight mode where they're folded up, and you've got the ramp which is either deployed in the landing mode or it's stowed when it's in flight mode, depending on which way you want to have it displayed. So I'll get back to the detail in a sec after I've shown the rest of the sprues. Sprue C is one set of the blades, half of them. They're all just the same part repeated, obviously. And D, same thing, blades, and then finally you've got your stand, like a stock stand. So sprue B then, let's look at these details on the landing gear. They are very basic, quite soft, little chunky looking in areas, but not too bad for the size. I mean, sort of manage your expectations a bit. I'm fine with it, and same goes for the fuselage parts. Now you'll notice obviously that this is one solid opaque piece, rather than like a frame with a clear insert to create sort of an internal cockpit. So you're not going to do that with this kit, but I mean, at this size, would you really want to? I wouldn't. So that's quite a big limitation if that's your thing. It's not a deal breaker for me. Um, I'm fine with it. Again, the detail is quite basic, but it is fairly accurate, surprisingly. I've got a few screen captures of the Ornithopter that I've grabbed off YouTube, and whilst they are basic and not all the detail is there, what they have got is pretty good. It's pretty accurate, certainly good enough for me. And at this size, again, sort of manage your expectations accordingly. So with this cockpit part being opaque and just like a solid piece, um, due to the way that it's molded and assembled, obviously I think the tail would sort of slot into that. Not sure, I haven't put it together. Not the tail, sorry. The fuselage would slot into that box there. So there's no provision for an internal cockpit, and you wouldn't be able to put one in there anyway without some pretty significant surgery and modifications to the kit. So, and a kit at this size, are you really going to do that? No, I don't think I would either. So here's the decal sheet, and Meng have sort of provided you with a very, very basic, just set of black panels really to create that blacked out window. And there are some ident markings. I gather that's the Atreides house logo. And that is all you've got for the decal sheet. But I think, to be honest with you, there's nothing else on the actual Ornithopter anyway to be included. So that's fine. For a model this size and what it's intended to be, okay, I'll live with it. Not a deal breaker. Could have been better, but not a deal breaker for me. So yeah, first impressions are the details are pretty good. What detail there is. The blades are pretty nice. Move that out of the way. The blade details are pretty nice. Again, they're quite basic, but they are fairly accurate. So let's look at the Harkonnen Ornithopter. Right, so this is the Harkonnen Ornithopter, Harkonnen, potato, kit MMS 014. Same size box as the Atreides Ornithopter, and what I neglected to do previously was show you that the assembly instructions are printed on the back of the box. So, yeah, with some QR codes and other nonsense and some pictures. I'm not sure if this is an assembled kit or like the CAD diagram, or like a CAD drawing. Not sure, but yeah. So let's have a look at these parts. So again, we've got the same stand, exactly the same sprue Z. So it's like the standard stand. Right, sprue E for the Harkonnen Ornithopter. So this is the main fuselage halves. It's like a larger bodied aircraft. Again, the detailing is pretty good. What detail there is, it's a little bit sort of basic, but for the size of the parts, it's okay. Pretty good. A little bit soft, but not a game changer for me. And sprue F, so that's the front end of the cockpit, like the cockpit canopy, and the tail and a gun. Again, details are a little bit basic, a bit chunky, but it's not too bad. And again, you can see because of the way that the kit's been engineered and designed, there's just no provision for a internal cockpit. Unless you go through a lot of trouble to put one in yourself, and that will not be me. So here's where we start to share sprues between the kits. This is sprue B, and it's the identical sprue that's included in the Atreides kit. So obviously it's a cost cutting exercise. I've not really studied the designs in the actual film, how similar they actually are, but from what I've seen in like this brief shots that you can see it in the film, they look similar enough. So, and sprue C and sprue D are also exactly the same. So There's some part sharing going on between the kits. Obviously, that cuts down the production costs for Meng, and the tooling costs. So I can understand why they've done that. Not sure how accurate it is to the actual ornithopters themselves, how common they actually are, in like the real thing, if you like. But I understand why they've done that, and it might turn out that that is completely accurate. They might be almost identical vehicles in the film, just with different fuselage and cockpit fronts. It's tough to find screenshots or images of this particular ornithopter on the film because you only ever really see him during the night attack. Um, so yeah, there's not a lot of clear images, but judging by the Atreides one being fairly accurate, I've got no reason to doubt that this is accurate as well. But your mileage may vary. So there's a quick comparison between the two decal sheets of both Ornithopter kits. You can see they're basically the same, other than the house emblems. Yeah, so there you go. Very basic stuff. Oh, actually, no, tell a lie. That number two there, that tiny sort of trapezoid, is that the right name? It's ever so slightly smaller than it is for the Atreides Ornithopter, and I would imagine that's because the detail on the kit is ever so slightly smaller. So, and finally, the Spice Harvester kit MMS 013. Now, this is where things get a little bit more interesting because it's obviously a lot bigger box, so the scale is totally different. And actually, there's no mention of any scale on these boxes that I've noticed anyway. Correct me if I'm wrong. May well be on there somewhere, but I don't speak Chinese, so yeah, not sure. But anyway, so yeah, like I said, this is where things get kind of interesting because the detail on this kit is quite a lot better, to put it bluntly. So again, I've opened this kit already, and a couple of the parts were loose, sort of broken away from the sprue gates, but that's fine. They're still in good shape. Nothing's damaged on them. So yeah. So a couple of those were loose, but never mind, not a biggie. So let's look at these a sprue at a time, shall we? So sprue A, that's the top and bottom of the main body of the harvester. Pretty good detail, and it's quite accurate from what I've been able to sort of tell. There's some swell marks and swell patterns from where it was injected, but obviously you won't see any of that once it's been primed. But yeah, the detail is pretty accurate actually. I was quite surprised when I've looked at screenshots and screen grabs. The detail is pretty good. So that's sprue A. Sprue B then, like the front and back end of the harvester, a sidewall. That's where the other sidewall part broke away from the sprue. It's a pretty nice detail. These are the tank track gimbals. Probably not the right term, but that's sort of what they're mounted to. A lot of people are saying that this is reminiscent of the impulse engine from the Enterprise refit and the Reliant in Star Trek. They're not wrong, can't argue with that. I don't think that was the intention, but some nice detail on that part. Probably not sort of presenting itself very well on camera, but in person it's pretty nice. So yeah, pretty good detail on sprue B. Sprue C, these are like the spice combs, if you like. They comb the sand and sort of agitate it so they can draw out the spice, I would imagine. Some of the tank tracks. And sprue D, it's the tank treads that all obviously get assembled, and that's where that other part broke free. I think that sits on the underside. It's some more sort of sand comb detail. Don't know what it's supposed to be called. So yeah, some pretty fine detail on there. Those little comb sort of protrusions, they're pretty small. May not seem it on screen, but they are actually quite small. So it's not that Meng can't do it. It's just that they decided to put the level of detail at that level on the Ornithopters. Probably didn't call for it, to be honest with you, at that scale. Not going to argue with it because, like I said before, I'm not really a kit reviewer. I've got no idea about this sort of thing. So, and here's the decal sheet for the Spice Harvester. Barely qualifies for the term, doesn't it? Decal sheet. Three whole things, which are basically the same design in slightly different sizes. Not much to say really, other than that. There you go. All in all, it's a pretty decent kit. Again, it's quite small, but it's a lot more plastic for your money in this box, that's for sure. And I think it's going to be a nice kit. It's going to be a good kit for kit bashing if that's your thing. Yeah, so all sorts of nice details and greeblies and that sort of thing. So yeah, there we go. So let's have a quick sort of final thoughts and wrap up on this thing, shall we? Right, final thoughts then. So um, I think these are pretty good. They're obviously very small. The ornithopters in particular are tiny, but my take on that is that this is Meng testing the waters to see if there's a market for these kind of kits, or Dune kits in general. So what I would hope is that they've got plans to make larger scales and with far more detail. Um, Now, obviously, we've got Dune Part 2 is being released early next year in March, and and over the last couple of days, there have been a few articles coming out online from Denis Villeneuve saying that he's finishing the script for the third part of the trilogy. So I hope that that happens because obviously I love Part 1. It's absolutely incredible film. Can't wait to see Part 2, and to have the trilogy would be great. So I think Meng have got a product line in mind for that, but it sort of depends on whether there proves to be a market. So that's a roundabout and long-winded way for me to say, if you want larger versions of these kits, then show Meng that that's the case by supporting these smaller ones. It's a proven business model because AMT, Round 2, Polar Lights, they do the same thing. They did the same thing with their Star Trek line. If they weren't sure if the kit would be a success, they released it at 2500 scale. They did that with the Strange New Worlds Enterprise. When that was shown in Discovery, they first released it at 2500 scale. It was popular enough for them to scale up to 1000 scale. So um, that's what I would say about that. Yes, they're small, but if you're staying away because you want a more detailed kit, that's not going to happen if you don't support the company when they come to market with this sort of thing. If you, I might be coming off a little bit aggressive with that, but that's kind of the way I feel about it. Um, these are too small for me. I probably won't ever build these kits, but I would like to have larger versions of these in like a large scale format, and that's not going to happen unless I've got a 3D printer, which obviously I've got, or a company like Meng releases those, and they're not going to do that if the market doesn't show interest. So that's what I would say about that. As far as kit quality goes, like I said earlier, I'm not a kit reviewer. I can't really speak to that. All I know is that they're okay for me. Detail is a little bit soft, but from what I can see, they are quite accurate. You can't put a cockpit in there unless you go absolutely hog wild and do some significant changes to the kit. Again, that's not going to be me, but I suppose it would be possible if you wanted to do that. So I'm happy with them. They're not massively expensive. I like the box design, if nothing else. I like the box, and I like the kits. It might come across in this video that I'm not impressed with the kits, and that's not really true. like I said, I love this film, and I would have bought these even if they were absolute garbage. But I honestly don't think they are. I think they're pretty good, albeit very small. So if I did ever build them, I'll probably hang them on my Christmas tree because my Christmas tree is covered in this sort of thing. So kind of a flippant way to finish the video. I hope it's not been too painful for those people that are expecting a professional unboxing and review, because you came to the wrong place for that. But that's just my thoughts. Like I said, these are going to be out in distributors over in the UK and in the States early part of next year. So if, at the risk of beating a dead horse, if you want larger versions of these kits, that's not going to happen if you ignore the market testing versions, which I think these are. Just go and spend a couple of quid on these, a couple of dollars. They're not expensive. Show Meng that you're interested, and who knows what they've got in mind down the line. So that's about all I've got left to say about it. So the next video will not be an unboxing, I'm sure, or a kit review, because this is obviously not what I'm good at. So whatever that video is, I'll see you there, and thanks for watching.